Hey, it's me, Althazar, and welcome to another Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over which of the full art cards you need to make sure that you have in your collection from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. So, let's get into it. With Adventures in the Forgotten Realms dropping this past week, we got to see which cards were going to be having full art variants in Puzzle Quest. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how to view these cards, you can go to your cards, you go to filters, you select Adventures in the Forgotten Realms over here, this little dragon symbol, and then you're going to go ahead and for the artwork, you're going to tap on the full art variant that you see flashing down there, right? So you do that, you hit apply, and that's going to pull up the full art cards. Now you do need to make sure that you have the show all cards, right? You see that in the bottom right. So if you hit show all, it'll show all of the different full art cards that there are for the set. Now, before I get into which ones I think you absolutely need to have in your collection, you're going to notice that some of these have a little ribbon on them with an E for exclusive. That's because, interestingly enough, almost all of the exclusives for this set have a full art variant. There's just one, the Beholder, the blue-black Beholder, does not have a full art variant, but all of the other exclusives that are going to otherwise be for purchase in the vault are going to have these full art variants that you can just choose to get from Fiddlebender instead of buying the primary version in the event that you are a free-to-play player. So I think it's interesting that it makes these more accessible, but I wonder if having more of these in the Fiddlebender variant might make it so that fewer people wind up getting the regular variant. We'll have to see. Anywho, on to the cards. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just showcase the ones that I think that no matter what, you should buy these. You should get these cards. And then I'm actually just going to go through all of them and go through whether or not I think they're worth having. Because let's face it, not everyone is going to fill out their collection like I have, which I fully understand. At this stage, I have all of the commons, uncommons, rares, and mythics from the set, apart from the exclusive ones. So I already have them all, but I know that that's not going to be the case for most people. So I recognize this. Now, there's really just two of these that if you do not have, that I think that no matter what, you need to make sure that you have your 400 crystals saved up to be able to get them when they enter Fiddlebinder's vault. These are two cards that I think you're going to want to make sure that you have 400 crystals in your vault for. I would not go under 400 crystals if you're not a person who would buy more crystals, so that you can make sure that you have these two cards in your collection. The first of those two cards is Tmat. A special thanks to Jay Sabaton for pointing out that the pronunciation of this is Tiamat instead of Tiamat, which is how I had been pronouncing it. So Tmat is an exclusive bundle that's in the vault right now. I'm actually hoping that today will be a double video, because I want to get a video out on the other one of the cards that I'm mentioning here, but also on Tmat. But this card is absolutely ridiculous. This is borderline game-breaking, ridiculously powerful, actually. So it's a 21 mana dragon god. It's a 10/10 with flying and leader dragon. The leader dragon really in the current standard is not going to do very much for you. It has possibility to do something for you, but it probably won't. It's just the rest of the effects make this absolutely ridiculous. So it has, when you cast this card, fetch up to the first 5 different dragon cards from your library that are not named Tiamat. Those cards gain half their mana. Then those cards gain enhanced. When this creature enters the battlefield, reinforce it. Now, I'm going to be getting into Tiamat more in Tiamat's own video. I am making a video just on Tiamat, but there's a few things to keep in mind about Tmat. First of all, the fetch and giving the dragons half mana is absolutely ridiculous. Second of all, the cards gain enhanced when this creature enters the battlefield, reinforce it. So that enhanced when a creature enters the battlefield, reinforce it. So once you cast the first one and that creature gets the enhanced, any other way that the creatures enter the battlefield is they're going to come in and then they're going to reinforce. So like any other time you get another copy, be it with the Prismatic Bridge, Turn Timber Symbiosis, however it may be, you're going to get 2 copies for every 1 copy. And if that wasn't enough, that enchanted actually it stacks. So let's say that you've played 2 Tiamat, and then you play 2 copies of one of those dragons. Now, every time that one of those dragons enters the battlefield, it's going to come in and it's going to reinforce twice. So it's a stacking buff. So not only does it give you card advantage, not only is it an insanely powerful body for its mana cost, but it's making everything better and more terrifying. This card is game-breakingly good. You absolutely want to have this in your collection, especially with the other dragons that exist. The other one that I think you should always have 400 in your vault ready for is Old Gnawbone. Old Gnawbone is the green mythic legendary dragon from the set. Old Gnawbone is a 9/9 for 19. Old Gnawbone is going to be the other dragon that you're going to be seeing a really early video on. You're going to see one on Tmat, you're going to see one on Gnawbone. They're probably going to be my next 2 videos, honestly. And so this one has, when a creature you control deals combat damage to your opponent, to your opponent's planeswalker, you're going to create X gold tokens, where X is that creature's base power. Now, I know it says this creature's, but it can be interpreted in one of 2 ways. The way that it works is the creature that's dealing the damage is going to be making you're going to get tokens based on that creature's base power. So it's basically saying when a creature you control deals combat damage to your opponent's planeswalker, then basically now this effect is on that creature. So create X gold tokens, X is this creature's base power. So the buff from Gnawbone effectively goes to the creature that's attacking. But nonetheless, the amount of gold tokens that you wind up getting on the battlefield is unreal. Like, I thought this card would be good coming into the set, and it far exceeded my expectations. The gold, if you're unfamiliar with them, they're 1 shield artifact treasures that when they're destroyed, you gain 3 mana. But needless to say, if you're a new player or if you have a full collection, this is a card that is absolutely going to win you games. Once you get it down, your opponent really has 1 turn to make sure that this thing doesn't do anything, and then it's really hard for them to come back once this thing's been down for a turn. And let's say that you've already built up a battlefield of creatures, and then you play this and those creatures hit and give you all the gold tokens right there. Like, it's just because of how much card draw we have in the game, being able to get the amount of mana that you get from Gnawbone is just unbelievable. So Tiamat and Old Gnawbone are the 2 that I think, no matter what, you're going to want to make sure that you have 400 crystals saved up for. Now, Gnawbone you can get in packs, so it is possible that you'll pull this one in packs, whereas Tiamat you have to spend money on. Tiamat is currently in the vault for $20. So do I think that Tiamat is worth picking up in the vault? 100% yes. Like, there's no question that Tiamat is worth picking up. However, it's also going to be something that's available in the full art variant. So if you just want to wait for it, that's okay too. So just something to think about with Gnawbone and Tmat, right? All right, let's take a look at the other full art variants that we have for the set. There are 15 of them. We've gone over 2, so there's 13 more to go. Some of them we can just gloss over a little bit more, but let's do this, right? So Inferno of the Star Mounts. This is a fantastic card, especially if you pick up Tiamat. This thing effectively, because it reinforces when it enters the battlefield, becomes a 16/16 double strike flying haste with the activate power. This thing is a phenomenal card. It is very good. It's actually just in a tier just below Gnawbone and Tiamat. It's definitely worth having. So if you're not a player that's going to be getting a lot of premium packs, if you don't think that you're going to pull this thing from your elite packs, your premium packs, it's absolutely worth having. So I would pick it up. That said, if you're going to be more pinched for crystals and you have a choice between this and Gnawbone or Tiamat, then you want to get Gnawbone and Tiamat. But Inferno of the Star Mounts is absolutely a phenomenal card. It's definitely worth having, regardless of if you're a newer player or if you're a more established player. It's a very good card. So we've seen Tiamat, we've seen Gnawbone. Next up is Baleful Beholder. Sorry about that. In general, I honestly don't think it's worth picking up the uncommons for the most part. Like, there are some times where you're going to get an uncommon that's really good, and it'll be worth it. Or maybe you just want to pick it up for flavor. But this isn't a card that I think is actively chase-worthy, regardless of if you're new or not. The next mythic is the Ice Death Frost Tyrant. The Ice Death Frost Tyrant is the mono-white legendary dragon from the set. This one, when you cast it, disables each opposing creature until the end of your next turn, and when it dies, you make the Frost Tongue token. The Frost Tongue token makes it so that your first creature gets a permanent +4/+0 buff, and when your first creature attacks, you disable the first opposing non-disabled creature until the end of your turn, meaning that it'll still be able to attack you, it just makes it so your opponent can't block. I think that the Ice Death Frost Dragon is a good card for newer players, but for people with more established collections, you're not going to need the Ice Death Frost Dragon. That said, if you're a newer player, you're probably going to be starved for mana crystals, and you're going to be better off saving the 800 crystals that it's going to take to get Tmat and Gnawbone instead of picking up the Ice Death Frost Dragon. Emerith? Desert Doom? Whatever. The blue legendary dragon. This one is another mythic. It's got Ward, drain 5 mana from your hand, which is really nice. It's a 7/7 flyer, which is solid for 16. And when this creature deals combat damage to your opponent's planeswalker, draw a card and give it half of its mana. Then if you have less than 3 cards in your hand, draw cards equal to the difference. So you're just going to make sure that you draw up to 3. Imerith is a very good card. It's very, very solid. I think it's better than the white dragon. I don't think it's as good as the red dragon. It's definitely not as good as the green dragon or Tiamat. Is it worth picking up? Yes, but it's again one of those things where I would still pick up Gnawbone and Tiamat before I picked up Imerith. And so if you have the extra crystals, this is a set where it could even be worth, once you've gotten a few premium packs, stopping the premium pack purchases so that you can pick up some of these mythics because they are very, very good cards. But this isn't an absolute must-have, but it's a card that I would suggest you do get. Next up is Drizzt Do-Urdin. Drizzt is one of the purchase exclusives, so you can either get it right here for 400 crystals, or you can pick up Drizzt from the vault when he comes out there. Drizzt is going to enter the battlefield and create a 9/5 Trample Berserker token that has also the Drizzt effect of when another creature dies, if it had power greater than this creature gets +X/+X, where X is equal to the difference. So this token actually goes really well with Drizzt, because if the token hits something and the token dies, then Drizzt's power is going to go from 5/5 to 9/5, to 9/9, and Drizzt has double strike, which is good. You're also getting 2 creatures out of casting just Drizzt, which is always nice because it makes it harder for removal. And finally, the Guinevere Cat token is indeed a token. So if you were to run Drizzt with something like Coma that's going to populate, then you're going to get the extra reinforcements on the Cat token, and it's going to become absolutely phenomenal. I haven't gotten to play with Drizzt yet, so I don't have an honest recommendation as to whether or not I think it's a must-have or not. But my guess from seeing the design of Drizzt is that Drizzt is not a must-have in the same way that Tiamat and Gnawbone are. Nonetheless, I would put Drizzt in a similar category as the Inferno of the Star Mounts, which is a card that you're going to want to have because it's very powerful. Delina Wildmage. This is 12 mana for a 5/4. This card is going to roll a d20 and potentially reinforce, potentially do it up to 2 times. It's definitely a solid card. I've gotten to play with it a little bit. But it's not a must-have card, so at least for me, this is a card that I would say go ahead and skip. For newer players, this is going to be a lot better than it is for like in the lower rungs, so people in like bronze, silver, and maybe into gold. Having a mana cost of 12 is very beneficial for people who can't level up their planeswalkers all the way, and the actual card effect is really good. That said, it's not a must-have, so I would skip it and get the other dragons instead. The next one's the Mythic Black Dragon. This one is 12 for a 7/4 flyer, which is very, very good for the power toughness. But the effect on this one is really subpar. When a creature enters the graveyard from anywhere, if this is in your graveyard, you create up to 3 graveyard gems. But nonetheless, the maximum number of graveyard gems that this thing can produce is 3. So it's not like if you have this thing in your graveyard and then you dump 2 creatures in your graveyard, you're now going to get 6 graveyard gems. The maximum number of gems it's going to produce is 3, which really limits the power of this, especially because graveyard gems aren't very good in the first place. So I would honestly go ahead and skip the Draco Lich. This brings us to YOLO Guide to Monsters. Yes, I know that's not his actual name, but this is 12 for a 5/4. When another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it's not reinforced, reinforce it. So this dude falls into an interesting category of the only people who are going to want this are very new players, because the effect that this guy has is very good for newer people. However, that said, if you're a newer player, you're better off saving your resources for some of the mythic cards that are offered in Fiddlebender instead of picking up this dude, because he's a card that's not going to age very well as you get better cards. He's just a card that would be a temporarily very good card. So he's one of those ones where the only people that I would recommend picking it up are newer players, but newer players I would recommend saving their crystals. So he's not quite good enough for you to want to pick him up. Next up is Minsk, the Beloved Ranger. This is another one of the exclusives that you would have to otherwise buy. It's 11 for a 4/4. That's going to make a Boo token. This little hamster token thing, rah, big fingers, select Boo. This little hamster token is a 1/1 with Trample, Haste, and Double Strike, and when it deals combat damage to your opponent's Planeswalker, gain 3 mana. So it's guaranteed going to give you 6 mana if it hits the opponent's Planeswalker because it does have Double Strike. And it also is going to have, at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may drain all mana from your hand. If you do, target creature you control gets +X/+X and gains the giant subtype. Until end of turn, X is the amount of mana drained this way. So this is really one where it's more like, I think it'll be like strong. It'll be more gimmicky strong than like super powerful strong. Minsk does have 3 colors, which is really nice. So you can use him in white, red, or green, along with Boo. That said, I don't think that Minsk and Boo are must-have cards. I would pick up Drizzt before I pick up Minsk, and I would also pick up Inferno of the Star Mounts. I'd pick up the Mono Blue Dragon, and of course I'd pick up Tmat and Gnawbone before Minsk also. That said, this is otherwise an exclusive, so this is a way that you could pick up the exclusive for 400 crystals instead of buying him for about $20, which is pretty nice. Now we've got some uncommons. We got Brunor. So same sort of thing as I mentioned earlier with the uncommon. These are cards that you can pick up from packs, and none of the uncommons, be it Brunor, the Beholder, Faradeth over here, the Devil's Chosen, or even Hama, right? None of these are cards that are absolutely game changing. So I would not recommend picking up one of these. The only one that I would potentially recommend picking up, if you had bad luck with your packs, is Hama, in the event that we do have to have an objective in the new event that requires us to venture into a dungeon, or complete a dungeon, I should say. But otherwise, I really wouldn't pick any of the uncommons up this time around. And then the last card is Oswald Fiddlebender. I think it's actually really cool that we get Tiddlywinks over here, because... I call him Tiddlywinks because I can never remember the name Fiddlebender, which I should be able to remember, but whatever. This card, in conjunction with Gnawbone, is absolutely ridiculous. If my Gnawbone video is out at the time that you see this video, go ahead and check that out, because I do use Oswald in conjunction with Gnawbone. The two of them together are absolutely ridiculous. So if you're going to be picking up Gnawbone, then I would definitely pick up Oswald too, so that you can play the two of them together. Their synergy is unfairly good. Oswald, whenever an artifact you control is destroyed, increases his level by 3, and then you move the first artifact with the highest base cost that is equal to or less than this card's level from your library into play. But because you're making so many gold tokens with Gnawbone, then those gold tokens get destroyed, they give you mana, they level up Oswald, and then they start giving you free artifacts from your deck. He also has, when an artifact enters play under your control, you increase his level by 1, and then this creature gets +1/+1. I've gotten this guy into the high 90s, even into the low 100 area of level, because of the amount of artifacts generated from Gnawbone. Just to give you an idea of how much power you can get out of this, which means that you can then move any artifact that costs 100 or less mana from your deck into play without paying its mana cost, which is, everything in the game that's an artifact. So Oswald is very good. I'd put Oswald on the same category as some of the other ones like the Blue Dragon or Drizzt or Inferno of the Star Mounts, with the caveat of I would not pick him up if you don't also get Gnawbone, right? You just want to pick him up if you have Gnawbone. If you don't have Gnawbone, I would skip out on him. If you do have Gnawbone, then I would pick him up. That's basically how it goes. So if I had to put these into a relative tier list, Tiamat and Gnawbone are S tier cards. You should absolutely have them. Inferno of the Star Mounts, Imarith, Drizzt, and the Tiddlywinks, aka Oswald Fiddlebender, are in the A tier. They're cards that I would definitely recommend picking up. They're very good. Then down into the sort of B area would be Delina Wild Mage, the Ice Death, the Mono White Dragon, and then Minsk. So those are cards that are more, you can go ahead and pick them up. And then the others are just more of in the realm of I wouldn't touch them. So I hope this video was helpful for you in determining which of the full art cards you want to pick up. I'm hoping that today is going to be a 2-video day, so take a look at this one, and then later on this evening, Pacific time, I'm hoping that there will be a second video up for you all. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one.